President Tsai of Taiwan just wrapped a meeting with Speaker Kevin McCarthy at the Reagan Library in California. Now, she's been in the United States for a week, meeting with various officials, but it was today's visit that really ticked off China.
This act seriously violates the One China principle and the provisions of the Three China-U.S. joint communiques and gravely undermines China's sovereignty and territorial integrity.
And it wasn't just words. Earlier this morning, ahead of the meeting, China parked an aircraft carrier group off Taiwan's southeast coast. McCarthy and his group of congressmen weren't impressed.
If the duly elected leader of one of our most important democratic partners can't meet with American leaders on American soil, then we're merely feeding the crocodile that will eventually eat us. We must not be intimidated.
One thing I would say to China, too, at no time, I am the Speaker of the House. There's no place that China is going to tell me and where I can go or who I can speak to, whether you be foe or whether you be friend.
Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy joins me now. One of my favorite places, the Reagan Library. Mr. Speaker, great to have you on tonight. Now, the Chinese Foreign Ministry released a statement saying that the U.S. colluded in allowing those seeking Taiwanese independence to carry out political activities on U.S. soil. So they now want to dictate what we do on our own soil. Your response to that?
China can never tell us what to do. As Speaker of the House, I'm going to meet with whoever we want to meet with whatever country. Look, I am not the general manager of the Houston Rockets. China is not going to intimidate us. And there's no better place to be than here at Reagan's Library, what it symbolizes. But more importantly, remember, yes, we have the 3 communiques with China, but we also have the 6 assurances with Taiwan that Ronald Reagan produced. And what we came was a very bipartisan meeting. We had Republicans and Democrats here speaking with one voice. And you know what? We need to speed up our weapons sales to Taiwan. Have we learned anything what's happening around the world? Let them defend themselves, deter the ability of China to enter Taiwan. We need to be able to foster greater democracy and freedom. We need to be able to work together economically from the chip manufacturing and others. I found it a very productive meeting. It was the first time a Speaker of the House has ever met with a Taiwanese president on American soil. But I think it was very important in a bipartisan manner, almost 20 members together meeting.
No, I loved
with the President of Taiwan.
And Speaker McCarthy, I think it was courageous for you to go forward with this meeting today, but you received virtually no support. I'd say the opposite of support from the White House. Watch this.
There's no reason for them to react in any sort of an aggressive manner because of it. She's not meeting with any administration officials. Nothing's changed about our policies with respect to Taiwan. And again, no reason for them to overreact.
Again, bending over backwards to reassure China. All you're doing is meeting with a duly elected president of one of our allies. So were you surprised that the White House distanced themselves from you and tried to suck up to China in that comment?
Well, looking at how the president reacted to a balloon going over our military bases from China, it doesn't shock me. But the difference is today, we stood up to China, just like Congress did when the balloon came. Every single member of Congress, Republican and Democrat, denounced the CCP for those actions. And I think that's what China needs to hear, that Congress will act together, that we can't allow this authoritarian view, this bullying, trying to dictate to who we can talk to and who we could speak to, when this is an ally, this is a democracy, believes in freedom. I mean, I think this meeting was more important today than at any given time. And our relationship with Taiwan and the Taiwan people, I think, has been greater than any time in history. And again, sitting in Reagan Library, think about what Reagan was able to accomplish: peace through strength, defending freedom.
Now, Mr. Speaker, Politico recently noted that China is ghosting this administration, writing in part that Beijing's current aversion to sustained high-level engagement underscores the particularly fraught nature of U.S.-China relations over the past few months. What was a two-sided desire to stabilize an increasingly volatile relationship is becoming much more about Washington reaching out and the Chinese government demurring. Is this not embarrassing for us that the Biden administration is essentially begging with the CCP in China to engage when China is making it clear they're trying to displace the United States as the world's dominant superpower, working with Russia, funding the war in Ukraine through its ag and oil purchases in Russia as well?
Well, look what President Xi has done with the BRICS. To get off the dollar and go into the yuan, look what they're doing around the world. They've watched this foreign policy of this administration, not listening to our military in Afghanistan, collapsing. We've watched our allies now buddy up to China. We've watched his reaction to Saudi Arabia. And now going after this administration, going after American energy, had made OPEC stronger, which also made Russia stronger. This is a weak foreign policy, has done nothing but teach America we cannot repeat this again.
The follow-on to that, though, is why should China continue to enjoy most favored nation status in trade with the United States? Why?
One, they should not. I mean, we've watched what the past administration, President Trump, had been able to accomplish with China, standing up to China. So it wasn't China begging America to talk. China was begging to talk to America.
But we need legislation.
Yeah, and that's what our job is. And watch what our committee... Exactly, and let our committees take the action to move forward and do just that. That's what we're doing. You saw Republicans and Democrats together here, meeting with the president of Taiwan, something a speaker has never done on U.S. soil. You've watched what being able to move forward with the select committee, something that Speaker Pelosi would deny us the right to do it.
Mr. Speaker, I need to move on to some other big news regarding Trump's indictment. Sure. You wrote yesterday that Alvin Bragg is attempting to interfere in our democratic process by invoking federal law, while at the same time arguing that Congress lacks jurisdiction to investigate this farce. He will be held accountable by Congress. My question is, are you worried that the response to the Trump investigations might turn people off from voting altogether, since some people might come out of this believing that just everything is rigged? They're trying to get Trump. They're trumping up these ridiculous, investigations against him. So are you worried that people in 2024 are just going to say, to hell with both parties, I'm staying home?
Well, I worry about that, but this should inspire people to move forward. Here is a DA that's playing in the democratic process. One thing you'll find with us is we won't sit back. He admittedly is using federal funds and trying to claim that Congress does not have a say in this. We do. I'm meeting with Chairman Comer and Chairman Jim Jordan as we move forward on this. If he's using federal funds, we have a right to have jurisdiction and oversee. We've watched what he's doing to the political process here, and we've got to stop this. So for anyone who's sitting back and saying, I shouldn't participate, this should inspire you to participate more, to stand up for the rule of law, one of the greatest strengths of this nation, and join with us as we move forward.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.